Oh, the many years I have waited to acquire a awesome Skeletor figure and open up the Masters of the Universe Origins line Skeletor. And if you didn't see my little story video of how I never had the Masters of the Universe figures growing up, it'll be at the end of this video. You can click it and check it out. I never got to have the original toys, so this toy line is awesome for me that now I'm finally in a place I can collect these, and instead of going back and getting the old ones, I can get these new figures. All I ever had was the Point Dread toy, no figures, and so I would always look at that book at the back, see all the figures I could have got. And finally, I will have Skeletor. And we'll talk about why he has He-Man's sword here, too. These are very much drawn like that booklet I just showed you, kind of the artist renderings of the toys. Skeletor! So they're all coming with the same comic per line, I guess. So I think maybe by the time we get to Trapjaw there, we will have a different comic. I'm free! I think the only problem is the accessory bags behind kind of cramped space, and you get this bending going on. And it is a little bent for being cramped in that package, but very much like the original accessory, and very much like the TV show, his primary weapon. And what's interesting is he comes with what looks like He-Man's sword, but it is purple. So the TV show didn't handle this, but the toy line, the idea was, seeing the unfinished side here, the key to Castle Grayskull was to have both power swords. So you had He-Man's sword, because I did get to open the He-Man of this line, and you can see how they're mirrored. So when you turn them like this, they combine into one sword, and that's why you had things like the 2002 He-Man revival show where Skeletor had that double sword. It's kind of a reference to this. So this was the key that could open Castle Grayskull. So they were always fighting for getting each other swords, basically. The toy line kind of storyline, and probably the comics also that came before the cartoon. The key to Castle Grayskull. There it is, the key to Castle Grayskull. I always wondered in the pictures why Skeletor had a sword just like He-Man, but purple. And it wasn't until later that I got to read things, because all I had were pictures to go by as to why that is. Pretty cool. So the Skeletor himself. And some of that early genius of kind of repurposing the same body. It's basically He-Man, but with a different, removable chest piece and kind of belt piece here. Underneath, you can see that's just He-Man's mold. Underneath there, just unpainted, left black because he has this extra piece covering. Same muscular body, but you'll notice the, he has a kind of a dirty spot here. That's interesting. Let's see if we can scrub that off. That's just straight out of the packaging like that. That's no good. I think that'll scrub off. Kind of this monstery forearm here, and then the feet, which was interesting because kind of these monstery feet, and these are the feet that they would use on Zodak. It was in the first wave of the original figures. Not here. Zodak is a much later figure, I guess. But also the way it's kind of a webbed looking feet that they use that for Merman, I believe. So check that out. Merman will be one I really am excited about getting. Always wanted him. Looking at that Point Dread book, I always thought his scaly sword was really cool looking. But yeah, same feet, just to kind of change it up, not just the boots of He-Man, but since it's the same body and of course a different face, which they went with a open mouth for this one. The original line was closed, so I guess maybe you can get more detail that way, that you can see what he's supposed to really look like. But it is kind of interesting that way. His hood, of course, so he has these two removable pieces, and I think hand-wise, I think you can only really hold a weapon with one hand here. You can have that Havoc staff that I will mostly be displaying him with, just because I'm kind of basing my Origins collection at least off of characters that appeared in the cartoon line. So characters that weren't in the cartoon, I will probably skip unless I get some sort of extreme discount or clearance or something like that. But the main characters that appear in the cartoon I will be getting. And as such, I'll be displaying them with their more cartoon-based weapons like Skeletor with the Havoc staff versus the sword, which is a little funky because it is mirrored to the He-Man one, so it almost makes him have to hold it this way where you see this unfinished side instead of the good toy molded side of the right design. Skeletor did have a sword in the show, but I don't think it looked like He-Man's at all. And he doesn't have a holster like He-Man, but, just the way this is, that you could kind of tuck this in anyway if you want to just keep that with Skeletor so he doesn't lose it. That's pretty handy. So he'll have the same kind of enhanced articulation. He's not just a 5 points of articulation figure like the original. It's really cool because then you can do all these poses. The parts will come apart easy. I mean, if you want them to pull out and things, so don't freak out if like a leg or something pops out. It doesn't have the rubber strap that the originals had to hold the legs, or just pegs and things, but again, these pieces come apart. You can kind of mix and match when you're playing with them, but for me, I don't, I'm not interested in that. I just want to display them as they are, as the characters that I always wanted to have as a kid, could never find. Of course, I did have the New Adventures of He-Man, Skeletor, but it's kind of a very drastically different look, of course, and a thinner action figure, not this thicker one like this. And always wanted the original one, though, because the New Adventures He-Man cartoon didn't really strike a chord with me. It didn't become the nostalgic cartoon that it was supposed to do for my particular generation that missed out on the original line. Just always pined for that original line and such. So his back piece is pretty elaborate with 3 sections there. I feel like the more you take them off, the more kind of harder they are to get on, stay on. So we can check them out here just for you to review. The belt piece, you can see that it's just the He-Man kind of thing. My pants! And then we got to take that off, pull these out that are similar to that belt piece. Not super easy to get out. But we have his chest piece. So Skeletor can reveal his rippling abs. Check me out! Do you even lift, bro? I don't know what this dirty spot on the Skeletor is, like, straight out of the box. Like, do I have a freaking brush in here? Yeah. The old elbow grease. Or shoulder grease in this case. Yeah, that'll just come off. I'm not sure why it, out of the factory is kind of dirty there, but... Alright, so that's what I was talking about, where they come apart easy, but they just locks back in place. They're meant to come apart in that fashion, so... Revealingly buff Skeletor is even more intimidating than with his gear on. Like, come at me, bro! I'm freaking shredded! Please put back on the gear, my friend. Suits you better. We all saw that you were incredibly shredded. Your abs have abs. He has back abs, which he refers to as babs. So there's a must-have for this line. At least you would want He-Man and Skeletor if you just wanted some representation of this. But I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to get to all these here eventually, so stick around, subscribe for that. We'll take a look at them, and definitely check out that story video here that'll be on the screen, where I just tell about my kind of story about wanting the Masters of the Universe figures and never finding them and things like that. So stick around for plenty of more action figure stuff. And we'll continue opening He-Man figures. Grayskull will be mine!